right, and we are live for the final recap of the regular season PB betting. This is episode number 16. Crazy week of college football. Regular season's wrapped up, heading into conference championship week already. Mr. Paisley, how's it going?
It's going good. Happy we made it to episode 16 here. I'll see if we get renewed for another season next year. But yeah, the regular season coming to a close with some wild fights breaking out in a rivalry week here. That was definitely fun to see. So a little bittersweet, but a lot to recap, and then a great championship slate coming up here this Saturday.
Yeah, we'll get right into the championship slate after the recap. Betting this past week wasn't by any means great. It wasn't awful. I had a really good week a week ago. This past week, of course, though, everything seems to even out. I went 5-9. Mr. Paisley, I think you stayed right at 500 at 9-9. We also lost our locks, so they fall to 12-16 on the season. But the crazy thing is, about 400 picks in overall throughout the entire regular season were 192 and 192 overall, and eight ties. So, I guess it could be worse for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Obviously, we have loved to been a little bit better, but still, we're even going into the conference championship, so you can't complain too much. My Friday was looking good, by the way. I had Mississippi State with the cover. I had the under in the Nebraska game, and then early Saturday I had South Carolina. But then right when Ohio State decided to crumble everything, the rest of my picks kind of went down too. Also, would like to apologize to everybody that may have taken Michigan State. I don't know what they did. I really like them. They just got blown out. It wasn't even close. Just got absolutely destroyed. Jared, I have to give you a lot of credit too on the Indiana pick. They just blitzed. I think it was like 66-0 against Purdue. So I'll give you a point there. And yeah, 5-9, not good. Guess it could have been worse, but we're still slightly above 500 for me. I think I'm 92 or 82 and 80 on the season there, so slightly above. We have one more week to go. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, no, thanks for giving my flowers. Case finally got one. I think might be 1-4 in the head-to-head matchups all year if you've been following along. But yeah, just had a good feel on Indiana. There's some certain teams that we will get to, maybe like a Penn State, that some spots they really like against bad teams. But then if they step up in class like Indiana did against Ohio State, definitely saw the difference there. So, yeah, love Kurt Cignetti coming off a loss. They're going to be doing that a lot if he's at Indiana going forward.
Yeah, no, that's exciting for Indiana. Good season. We'll get into that, obviously, when we break down the playoff here at the towards the end of the episode. But anyway, yeah, so we'll get right into the Week 14 recap, Mr. Paisley, and I would be doing the audience a disservice if I didn't just jump right into what happened in Columbus on Saturday. 20-point favorites, Ohio State. Not only did they not cover, they lost outright to Michigan. They scored only 10 points offensively. A really ugly game. I was at the Penn State game, so it was tough to watch all these games all day, but I did catch a lot of this one. Ohio State just made a lot of self-inflicted wounds, couldn't score. The offense just did not look good. Michigan didn't look much better at all, but I don't know what it is with Ryan Day and Ohio State. I just don't – part of me the last couple of years, I wanted to give Ohio State the benefit of the doubt. Michigan's coming off of a national championship, even though we know, they may have cheated for that. But anyway, they were a good team these last few years. So there were some excuses, at least. Maybe Michigan had the better team. I don't know what's going on, but I cannot remember in my life Ohio State being this much of a heavy favorite and just laying an absolute egg at home, of all things. I know a couple of years ago, I say a couple, like 8 years ago, they lost to Iowa on the road. Like 5 years ago, they lost to Iowa. I remember that one. But even those games weren't 20-point spreads. And I don't think Ohio State was near as talented as they were this year. This is, I think, a larger problem. Ryan Day, it's almost like I can't even rant about it because it's just so – I just don't understand. 20-point favorites at home, you lose outright, the biggest game of the year. Somehow they're hanging on to a home game in the playoffs. I don't know if they deserve that. That's ridiculous. But just unbelievable what happened in that game.
Yeah, this one was definitely the shocker of the week. one of the rare picks. I feel like you might have felt the same way, where we both had Ohio State, was looking for the blowout, and then honestly didn't mind that they lost outright because it was kind of funny. So it was.
I didn't mind at all.
When they're losing, it's like, just lose outright. I didn't want you to win by like 3 or something. And it was the second quarter. I literally was like, I think Michigan could win this game. And we kind of highlighted a little bit after the Indiana game with Ohio State's offense. Like, they didn't look that great, Ohio State's offense against Indiana, but the score looked really good. And they punched in the late one. They got 2 special teams touchdowns. And their offense looked the exact same and even worse. And Will Howard, I think, is not the guy. I'm not a fan of him. I never was, especially after that slide at Oregon. Like, he's very cocky, very, like, outspoken. And he's not even like a top 20 quarterback, I would think, in college. So it's just really funny. They paid so much money and gave millions of dollars to all these guys to get all these players. And they have Chip Kelly, who was a NFL head coach a couple of years ago, and now they're OC. Like, you could not stack the deck any better for Ohio State. And the opposite, like you said, this was one of the worst Michigan teams in a while. What, they finished 6-6 on the year now, I think?
7-5, but
7-5 with the win. They won. So, like, barely a bowl team. And you're right. I can't remember a loss like this at Ohio State. I think they lost Purdue a couple times on the road the last couple of years with Urban Meyer. Like, at home, this might be one of the worst losses, definitely in our lifetimes, probably, for Ohio State. And just the way they lost it, the point spread. I mean, Ohio State's trying to run the ball. It's like they're trying to prove a point. Like, you couldn't run it. You're not a physical team. And Ryan Day always preaches how physical they are, especially after they beat Notre Dame and calling out Lou Holtz. That came back to bite him a little bit. But, like, it just felt like the whole game they were trying to be like, no, we're just as physical as Michigan. They couldn't run the ball, but they had some success throwing it. And then Howard had a couple picks. I think they got scared, which shows how confident or not confident they are in him. They kind of just shut that down and just ran to a brick wall the rest of the game. So just a weird game. A lot of turnovers. I mean, Ohio State had every chance to win it. Michigan gave them a couple turnovers right on the 10-15. Like, it was just a crazy game. And if you're 20-point favorites with that many talented players, you gotta find a way to win that game. That was truly embarrassing. And I think Michigan just has some real estate in Ohio State's head. Like, I think they were coaching that game differently because it was Michigan, because they wanted to prove a point and be more physical. And, like, just play to your strengths. If you have the matchups on the outside, like, just keep throwing it. If you have a couple picks, trust your quarterback. Clear they didn't. I think this is gonna honestly linger over into the playoffs with them being now off. They were expecting the Big Ten championship this week. They're going to get probably a bad draw in the first round. It's looking like Tennessee right now that we'll get to later, and they're projected. Like, I think this could be a first-round exit or maybe a second-round exit for Ohio State, and this team was national championships a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, all that's very true. I mean, if that happens too, I mean, I said it at the beginning of the season that Ryan Day will be out as Ohio State's head coach. This may have just been what puts it over the edge. I mean, any Ohio State fans online, you look at, everybody's calling for his exits. I mean, there's very, very few percentage of the fan base that's standing behind him at this point. And you're right. Will this linger into the playoffs? I would think so. I mean, you have a devastating loss like that. It's hard to rebound that quickly. You're expecting the Big Ten championship game, and all that is just crumbling, right in front of you. It's funny. Like, I as a Penn State fan, I no reason to believe that was going to happen. I think I mentioned the possibility a week ago, but it was literally like felt like a 1 in 1,000 chance. And, clearly I think it's the complete opposite for Ohio State, where they just were a shoo-in. I don't think many fans even thought it was feasible for them to lose this game. And they did at home. And, at least the 12-team playoff gives them one more chance to rebound, but not sure they deserve it at all.
Yeah, and I just want to pose one more question, because you watch Ryan Day after, when he was just frozen on the field with his team running around him trying to get the flag. Like, does he even want to be there anymore? Like, I think this pressure, and now this might be the final nail in the coffin. Like, he might go look for a job elsewhere. Like, I think this pressure is just way too much. He's clearly not living up to it. I think that Georgia loss is still stinging from a couple of years ago. Like, I think he just looks mentally drained, and, like, this fan base is just running them crazy. And, like, you got to win the Michigan game, and that's all they care about. Now you're 0 for 4 last 4 years. Like, I think he might be looking for elsewhere, not even the place fire him. So I could see, like, maybe a little mutual, like, okay, we're going to part ways, but he wanted to leave anyway at the end of this season here, because it's getting sloppy. Like, I don't know where he goes from here.
Yeah. No, at this point, it's definitely national championship or bust, I feel like, for Ohio State. There's no other. I mean, it was already beat Michigan or bust or get to the Big Ten, win the Big Ten, and all that's already fell through. So somehow, in some way, they're sitting here with 2 losses, a loss to Michigan with one more chance to run the table. But yeah, I do not see that being likely at all. Texas surviving at Texas A&M also on Saturday. This was Saturday night. We were also, of course, we're starting 0 for 4 here. Also, both, I think, on A&M here. I didn't love A&M. I thought they'd play better. Texas was trying to give them the game, too, at the end of that. I mean, with a lot of self-inflicted mistakes by Texas, that blocked punt in the fourth quarter. Texas A&M then wasn't able to capitalize. I got excited. I saw the block punt. I'm like, you know what? This is going to be one of those weird games where A&M could just, get lucky at the end of it. But it seems like both teams didn't really impress me. Texas did enough defensively to win this game, but not solely impressed by Texas. I think that comes back to the point that there's no like elite team that I feel this year, even Oregon, even Texas, even Georgia. Like everybody's kind of has some flaws. I mean, Ohio State, we're going to have to talk about them again, but there's no clear-cut number one. And this was a game I think A&M could have won, but they just did everything wrong. They couldn't move the ball. Credit to Texas's defense, I guess. But, it's kind of a sloppy game. Did not look like two, top teams contending here for the SEC. This was a very sloppy, kind of reminded me of a Big Ten game, honestly. So, anyway.
Yeah, no, I think we almost got the miracle backdoor cover. If they would have got a touchdown, bring within 3, if we got 5, 4.5 on that game. So that's what I was excited about. But yeah, I was completely wrong in this one, hand up. Really underestimated the Texas defense. I keep doubting it. I'm fully in on them now. I think their defense is better than their offense. Honestly, the offense has more star players and stuff, and more headline names with Sark running the offense there, calling plays. They just can't get it going. Like, it's just so weird. The offense just really couldn't get it going. A lot of just sloppy turnovers, can't really move the ball, but their defense just really shut down Texas A&M's offense with Marcel Reed. I feel bad for Texas A&M. I feel like whoever quarterback they went with for more than like 2 games, they just started sucking. And then like if they would have put Wegman in this game, maybe he would have went on fire. So It's tough. They always say if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. So I think they were just going back and forth. Like every time it's like, oh, Marcel Reed's the guy. And then no, he sucked and had a bad game. Then no, it's Wegman, then no, he's bad. Why don't we go to the other guy? So just a mess from Texas A&M, and that's something to keep in mind. So they said it before the game, but I'm like, I don't know. But College Station really hasn't been a good home field advantage for them. I mean, you go back to the Notre Dame game,
right?
You go back to now this game, and if you look at their last couple like big primetime games at home, you would think they would have a better record straight up, but it's really not the case. So yeah, I was really disappointed in Texas A&M. And we were joking before the pod that when South Carolina won our underdog parlay there, we only needed Texas A&M. I was like, there's no way Texas A&M going to lose. They're just going to win. So it was frustrating, but yeah, got a lot of stock in the Texas defense. And if this offense could just get it going, I think Texas can maybe pull some strides away from other teams. But like you said, I don't see it. I don't see a lot of teams here that are elite in the elite category.
Yeah. And yeah, good point on the 1-1 once again. If you're listening, yeah, we went 1-1 once again on our parlay last week. We got the South Carolina hit, but of course the Texas A&M pick did not hit. So once again, lost. We have one more shot here next week. Maybe we'll give us a few more once we get to bowl games. But anyway, we'll get to that in the second half of the episode. But yeah, a big win for Texas. SEC championship on the line this upcoming week, and might as well just lead right into South Carolina too. Big win over Clemson this past weekend. I said last week that I think this is kind of like a preemptive playoff game. I think both teams have a solid case to get in. At this point, we know that South Carolina, it does not look like they are in. They are left out. They're way behind Alabama and Ole Miss and some of those other SEC teams. So they get the big win. They're not really rewarded for it. They move up a little bit. So kind of disappointment, I guess, for them. And we could get into kind of that and what, is the difference between Ole Miss, Alabama, South Carolina, Miami, those teams, when we talk about the playoff. But big win for them, really turned their season around. I think they won 6 straight since that Alabama loss. They're playing really good football. They come back in this game. They were trailing most of it. Clemson, loses the game, but all of a sudden Clemson now has a shot at the ACC championship, and we'll also get right into that. But anyway, just about this game specifically, yeah, big win for South Carolina, one of the hottest teams in the country. I don't think many teams would want to play them. I mean, this was kind of an ugly game. They didn't really control a lot of it, but a win's a win. They win 6 straight, a tough schedule. But yeah, no real reward for them. A little bit of too many losses early on for them.
Yeah, I thought they should have got rewarded a little more. Also feel bad for them because they had that LSU loss was terrible. They should not have lost that. They were up 17-0 and then had some bad calls at the end of the game. At home there, they should have won that one. And then I watched that whole Alabama game, and they beat down Alabama in Tuscaloosa, should have beat them outright, had a 2-point conversion to tie it up, just had the guy open, sailed the ball over his head. So, they are razor-thin margins. I think they're better than Alabama. But like you said, the 3 losses, and that's totally what the committee is valuing here, just doesn't get them that bump up. But like you said, I wouldn't want to play them. I'm kind of happy if we're a Notre Dame and Penn State fan, probably sitting at that 5-6 spot. And if South Carolina sneaks in, that's a team I do not want to play. I'd rather play some other teams because they are hot, got a great defense, dual threat quarterback. But that was impressive going into Clemson, getting that win in a grinded out 17-14 game. I thought that was good enough to get enough of a bump to be that last team in. But it sucks for South Carolina, but still a great momentum going to the end of the year, and still some stuff could happen, or we could see what's going to go on.
Right. Yeah. Good season for them. No doubt about it. Going 9-3. They were right on the doorstep. We'll see what happens with the rest of the rankings and, next week and moving forward. Certainly optimistic, if you're South Carolina, it was a great year, but yeah, it's too bad, that LSU game, who would have thought there in September, like week 3, you win that game, they're probably safely, and I'd say they're probably like 8th or 9th, maybe even higher. So playing really good football, just came up a little bit short. We'll get into Clemson, when we talk about that ACC championship game, but yeah, they couldn't get the win, and they're still sitting there with an opportunity to keep playing, and we'll get into all that in the second half of the episode. Another disappointment team, Miami. Thankfully, I needed Miami to lose this game because I think I said like week 0 or before the year started, I never trusted Miami. They always screw it up. No matter how clear cut it looks like, I've never trusted Miami, and they did it again. They had a couple early close ones and they were squeezing by, and we were like, wow, they actually got the win. Who are they going to lose to? Well, they found a way to lose 2 stupid games this year. Of course, just this past week, Syracuse was the dagger to push them out. I mean, if they're not going to be in. They're behind, I think, South Carolina. They're behind Alabama, Ole Miss. So at this point, they're not playing for the ACC. Huge win for Syracuse. But once again, I think the story here is just Miami. Same old Miami. Not a very difficult conference by any means, safe to say. And they fail to get to the ACC championship. They're out of the playoff. And at this point, there's going to be some serious questions there once again.
Yeah, I feel like this one kind of went a little quiet, like under the radar. I think Ohio State took a boatload of the publicity and everything, but Miami losing 2 out of 3 to get bounced in the ACC, that we both agree is not a great conference. And I think we were both on that we were not on Miami. It was looking a little scary there midway through the year, and they're like, there's no way they won't be in the AC championship, let alone like win it all. So I had to wait the entire year, but it finally came to fruition. And, just those losses at Georgia Tech, like, you knew they were running the ball the entire game, couldn't stop them. Now you go up to Syracuse. They had a lead, I think, in the first half in this game. I had Syracuse plus the points. And I was like, they just got to keep it close. And then, again, that defense just came through like every game where they're just giving up points, giving up chunk plays. And it's hard to win, or at least win and cover these big spreads, but not even just win outright when your defense is that bad. Like, I don't know what they were doing. I mean, they have the Cam Wards, the one receiver is really good. The running back got a lot of NIL money, like a lot of star players on the offense. But that defense we highlighted all year that just was so leaky, not great. And for Oregon at home, this was kind of like, was it too obvious? Like, oh, this is Miami going up north there in the dome, not really going to care that much, like just kind of coasting, and came back to bite them a little bit. And who would have thought that now with all this, Clemson finds its way back into the ACC championship. So wild stuff in the ACC, and just an absolute bummer for Miami, kind of like a Ohio State situation. Like, there was no better year. Like, got your team you wanted, paid all this money, got off to a great start wise, and for it to fall flat on its face and now miss out on the ACC, and I think going to miss out on the playoff for sure. just a very, very disappointing end of the year for Miami.
Yeah, and bad losses too. I mean, Georgia Tech and Syracuse, you got to win those games. And, a lot of people, will give, Indiana and, a lot of shit for their schedule, but it's like they were winning a lot of, like Syracuse and Georgia Tech, I feel like are very similar to some of the mid-pack Big Ten teams that Indiana was, beating badly, that a team like Miami just, you got to win those games, and it's important. And once again, here we are with Miami. And I am wrong. They actually are ahead still of Ole Miss and South Carolina, but they're behind Alabama. So they're still out. But regardless, very disappointing for them, and got to win those games. And good for, I guess, Kyle McCord too. I saw Dave Portnoy was giving him a lot of credit, of course, just mocking kind of as a Michigan fan leaving Ohio State last year, but still a huge win for them, huge win for Syracuse, good for them. And just once again, Miami, just same old, seems like every year.
Yeah, I mean, the way Kyle McCord looked this year, I think Ohio State fans maybe want him back. So it's after Will Howard and his ineptitude. But yeah, I mean, just crazy stuff with Miami there. Just couldn't get it done. But and if you're trying, there's not a lot of great teams to get that last spot, but you lose at Georgia Tech and get Syracuse, you have no leg to stand on to be like, oh, we need to be in the playoffs because we can win it all. Get out of here, Miami.
Whoever they play in the bowl game, I think I'm going to take that bowl game minus 30, because I imagine Miami's entire roster may transfer at the end of the season. I'm not sure, but so we'll keep that in mind for the next few weeks. All right, one more final recap game. It was a Friday night game, UGA, Georgia, keeping their national title hopes alive, an 8 overtime thriller, if that's what you want to call it, over Georgia Tech. I mean, I watched this whole game because it was a standalone game on a Friday, and it felt like Georgia was going to come back this entire game. When it was 17-0, I knew this would be a dogfight. But just what an insane game, rivalry game, that 2-point conversions going back and forth. Georgia, couldn't do anything in the first half. And then, second half, a couple things started to go their way. But really, it was more Georgia Tech losing this game with that fumble, I think, on, their own 30 with 4 minutes to go. That was kind of the dagger when Georgia kind of cut it to 7. And then that was really it. It felt like, I know it went to overtime, and Georgia Tech had a lot of chances. Their quarterback really laid it out all on the line. That was fun to see for Georgia Tech. They really would have loved to see them win this game for a lot of reasons. Couldn't do it. Georgia keeps their season alive. Huge win. Not sure they would have been bumped out because even with this loss, because of everything else with Miami and Ohio State. So they may have hovered around that 9, 10, 11 anyway. But who knows? Regardless, now they're playing for the SEC championship. They're safely probably have a home game. Maybe not. Maybe if they lose, it'll be close. But regardless, what a crazy game. 8 overtimes, almost the record, not quite. Penn State holds the record in their historic loss against Illinois 4 years ago. Got to change this overtime rule. Anyway, that's a conversation for another show. Anyway, big win for Georgia. Paisley keeps the SEC title hopes alive.
Yeah. Now, I'd like it to go maybe 3 overtimes or 4, and then you start going to the 2 point. I think the 2 overtimes, and the third, it goes this is just too quick. So
feels like soccer. It's like penalty kicks.
Yeah, right. And it's just and someone said this is deciding huge playoff implication type games. If Georgia, you're right, if Georgia loses this on a 2-point conversion back and forth soccer style, they could have been out of the playoff. And it's is that the way you want them to lose their season? So pretty crazy. Someone made a good point too. Is this how it's going to be in the playoff if it gets there, or is it just going to be just normal OT the whole way through? So something to maybe look up and look into before we get to the playoffs. But this just kind of encapsulates the whole season. You have Georgia, their brand, little brother, Georgia Tech coming in, and they're in a dogfight down 17-0. You have Ohio State 20-point favorites. This is what makes betting so difficult. I feel like I had Georgia Tech in this game. I never thought they would maybe win this game outright and look pretty good while doing it. This was shocking that Georgia came back. They needed every little break to go their way at home. Final game of the year. They needed it. It's not like they were safely, and it's not like they had 1 loss or no losses. So it's just, we'll get into this with some of the previews upcoming here, but what Georgia team are you getting? Because we've seen the highs of the highs, and same with Ohio State. I think you can lump them in the same category where their highs are pretty good and they could beat a top 5 team, but then their lows are losing to Georgia Tech, to a 6-7-5 Michigan. this is what's so hard going into some of these games, and just got to throw some caution out there, because Georgia probably could win the national championship, or they could lose to Georgia Tech at home when they're a 20-point favorite. So it's like,
Right.
how do you quantify that? And how do you know what team you're getting week in and week out? But yeah, really tough to see Georgia Tech go down. I really wanted them to see this one, win this one outright, because they truly deserved it. Would have been a nice win for the program there. A little underrated team in Georgia Tech that wasn't bad this year, but yeah, just couldn't get it done. That was sad to see.
Yeah, and great point too. Georgia, I think, can win it all. I think most people think they can, but they could have easily lost this game. It was funny. I saw a tweet, or somebody said this week, about the expansion of the college football playoff, how it was kind of designed to give a lot of these other teams a chance to win. So you didn't have your same Alabama, Clemson, Georgia up there, Ohio State. Well, this year it's like the complete opposite, where it's those teams that are getting very lucky with this 12-team playoff.
Right.
Instead, we have Texas, who they were good historically, but the last few years have kind of struggled. They're now up there. We have Oregon, kind of a new earth face, Penn State, who is new to this, Notre Dame, who's only been there once. A lot of teams hovering, SMU, like that really haven't been in the national top 3-4 conversation. And now it's like flipped, where it's like now you have Alabama fighting for that 12. You have Ohio State, what normal years would be the death. It would have been hovering there. But anyway, yeah, just insanity. It's just, you're right. The whole season has been like that this year with college football.
Yeah, that's pretty ironic. That's such a good point, that now Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State might be some of the last seeds to get in in this new expanded playoffs. Now we're just saving the top teams that were always at the top. So yeah, just that's college football for you.
All right, might as well get right into the winners and losers of the week. Paisley, I'm just going to kick it right off. Ryan Day's a loser. Biggest loss of the season. One of the biggest losses, I think, as a school, of Ohio State. I wanted to go somewhere else here, but I just can't. Ryan Day, Ohio State, disappointing. As a Penn State fan, people might be listening and be like, how could this clown say anything about Ohio State and Ryan Day to beat you every year? Yeah, that's true. But at the end of the day, the fact is the pressure in Ohio State, they have a much more elite roster. They have a much more elite NIL program. They expect to win the national championship every single season. As much as I'd love to say I would, we all know that's not reality. And Ohio State, a 20-point favorite, not 3, not 5, not 7, not on the road, 20. Massive favorite. I don't know what the line was, Jared, on the Notre Dame Northern Illinois game, but I think it was around 20. I think it was right around there.
It was 27, 28.
So give us a possession. So regardless, massive loss, Ohio State season on the line, rivalry. I mean, I can't even – everybody knows, if you're listening to this and you follow college football, because you won't just find this episode randomly. Ryan Day, what a joke, catastrophe. Good, they're still playing, I guess, but if I was an Ohio State fan, I would be livid right now. Unbelievable. At home, 20 points. Ryan Day, not only loser of the week, might be loser of the – I don't even know. Centennial? Is that it? Unless they win the national championship this year, Ryan Day needs to go.
Yeah. And then somebody said too, like, what if they win the national championship? I think Ohio State fans will still be pissed off because of that loss. So,
right.
I mean, I think our born on third base predictions, or what we were saying earlier in the season, are coming to light here. Like, this guy got handed everything, and the program's getting worse.
Born on third base, now he's at second.
Right, yeah, he's just moving back a little bit. Like, it's just how they bought, like, the first year with the NIL, and they spent $15-20 million on all these players. Judkins, no one's even talking about him. Like, he came in from Ole Miss and was one of the best running backs last year. You haven't heard anything from him because they can't run the ball. Like, they have so much talent, great coaching staff. Like I said, Chip Kelly there, and just to have that effort was unbelievable. So it's just funny. It's really just very comical at the end of the day. So wouldn't mind if they get bounced in the first round. We can both agree on that with our hatred of Ohio State. My loser, I'm going to go to another program that had a bad Friday. I'm going to go to Oklahoma State. If anyone was watching this game against Colorado, lost 52-0.
Yeah, that's brutal.
At noon in Colorado and Boulder there. Very nice end of the year for Colorado. Like we said, definitely a little bit better than our expectations, but Oh my God, Oklahoma State. This used to be a decent program. I think this is the first losing season, kind of like a Mike Tomlin with Mike Gundy, that hasn't had a losing season maybe in his whole tenure and 18 years coaching or something like that. Like, this was shocking, and this team has just fallen off a cliff. I mean, this program used to be competing a little bit with Oklahoma back in the original Big 12. Like, I think they were just in a Big 12 championship 2 years ago. I think it was against Baylor. Like, I don't know what happened. This is just a program I think no one's really talking about too, that kind of just fell off the map. Some of these older coaches, as their last year, they're kind of mailing it in. But the Oklahoma State used to be a really nice program back in the day, even the last 4 or 5 years. And oh God, they fell off a cliff completely. That game was embarrassing. I did take Colorado in that one. I had the over, and Colorado couldn't get there by themselves. But so that was just a little program spotlight there on Oklahoma State. Not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, disappointing for Mike Gundy. I remember last year too. They started out a little rocky, and they turned their season around and kind of quieted down the crowd. But yeah, disappointment. I mean, this is an Oklahoma State team that a few people picked them to win the Big 12 championship in the beginning of the season. I mean, they were in the discussion. We knew how wide open it would be. That's great. So did they go winless in the Big 12?
I don't know. They might have been close, like either 1 win or 0. But I think you're closer.
Complete. Yeah, disappointment for them. I mean, no doubt about it. Horrible season for Oklahoma State. Yeah, they were 0-9 in the Big 12. I'm looking at it. That's insane. And I did see you had the over. What a brutal way to lose. Colorado put the 52.
You had a touchdown or two. And like that Ollie Gordon, the running back from Oklahoma State, got a lot of buzz last year. Where did he go? He's still on the team. Like, just some stuff to put some light on it.
Yeah.
Here.
No, unbelievable. Disappointment for Oklahoma State. That was a good one to get off the Ryan Day subject. But yeah, Ryan Day loser as well. Oklahoma State, not good. I'm going to go with my winner of the week here. I have a couple quick co-winners. I want to give a quick shout out as well. West Virginia fans, congratulations. Gil Brown no longer with you, so that's got to be a win for you guys. Also, Florida State fans, little win. Season's over. No more worrying about what's going to happen next week. You don't have to worry about Selection Sunday. You're 2-10, complete flip flop on the season. 13. You go from 13 wins to 2 wins. Your stadium is like half empty because it's under renovation. So disappointing all around all season. But I'm going to give you a co-winner this week just because your season's over. And now you could, go into the winter. Florida in winter, Jared, it's a great time. You're not too hot. It's going to be nice. Enjoy the Christmas holidays. No stress, nothing to worry about. So good for Florida State. Hopefully they can, mellow out over the next few months. But Jared, you're going to love this one. My winner of the week. I hate to do it. I'm going to give Notre Dame some credit here. We're going to be one of my co-winners of the week because I'm going to tell you why, and I'm not happy about it.
Please.
But they had the early loss to Northern Illinois. Season was over. Everybody was crying. Everybody was raging. They thought it was all over. A lot of people wanted to come from Marcus Freeman's head, this and that. They settled down week in and week out. It became 1 week at a time. Had to win out. They knew they had to win out. And I know the schedule wasn't, anything unbelievable. We all know that. A lot of teams, it's college football. Some have tough schedules, some not so much. Early lost. Week in, week out. Won all their games pretty handily, I would say. A couple, maybe not really actually close ones. I mean, it was pretty much Louisville, if that's what you want to call it. USC at the end, USC was moving the ball a little bit this past week at times, but Notre Dame came up with enough defensive plays to get the win. So got to give them some credit. Ran the table. They're sitting right there with a chance to be the 5 seed. Not sure they will be. We'll have to see how it plays out. Either way, they're safely in. I should have bet on it after the Northern Illinois loss. It would be kind of crazy to make the playoffs, but so many people wrote them off, Jared. So I'll let you speak to that. But got to give them some credit. So West Virginia fans, Florida State fans, and Notre Dame as well.
Wow. I mean, that's big. I'm going to have to save this podcast now for generations. Casey even praise on Notre Dame here. But no, that's a good pick. I didn't even think of that myself. And if you want to say the people that wrote them off, it was me too. If you would have told me they were going to make the playoff, I would have been like, no way, just in the state of the team. So that's a very, very good point, Case. I didn't want to sound like a homer bringing them up, but that was a great point, Marcus Freeman rounding the troops. And like you said, they had to win every game, and they did a lot convincingly until this last one. And I think, honestly, they just ran out of gas. I think because, like we said, they were kind of playing a playoff game the last couple of weeks of the season or every game since NIU. So
pretty much
it was big that they just got the win. It was definitely one of their worst performances on defense with USC moving the ball a lot. But the offense kind of finding a little spark, really just run the ball great. Got enough points, scored 42. They had 2 late pick sixes that made it look a little bit better than what it was, which was nice to get the cover there if you had Notre Dame. But yeah, that's a great point. I mean, to win every game and have that pressure after week 2 and to come through like that, I think says a lot about the coaching staff there and the players not giving up too, coaches not giving up and just doing their job week in, because that is tough, as we saw with all these upsets. I mean, Ohio State was a 20-point favorite. Georgia going down a couple times. There was a ton of upsets. I really thought Notre Dame was going to slip up on one of these, with them losing as a 28-point favorite, and they haven't had that spread since week 2. So, yeah, I like it, Case. That's very, very nice of you in the giving season here of Thanksgiving.
Do it.
Very, very nice. But I'm going to stick in Florida actually as well for my winner, Case, and a little the opposite side of Florida State after that game. I'm going to go the Florida Gators, and especially Billy Napier. I feel like a lot of people were kicking some dirt on him this whole season. Their schedule was tough. Now they got 7 wins, I think, after this win, or 6 or 7 wins.
7 and 5, yeah.
Win total was 4.5. I mean, I think this was people just like to dogpile on somebody, and then when they start doing good, they're just like, okay, don't really talk about him. But I think the job he's done to get a couple wins there, turn the program around. They committed to him weirdly in the middle of the year for next year. Like, it was a weird timing. But since then, he's been pretty solid, got some nice wins. And I think it was nice being Florida State after Florida State kind of been owning that rivalry the last couple of years. So I think that was big for their program there. But, I mean, yeah, we just thought Florida was going to be an absolute mess, coach fired, this or that. I don't know. Now they're actually looking okay in the SEC with all these other teams kind of falling off of a cliff here and not being as dominant. So we'll see going forward. But I've actually been a Billy Napier fan. I think he was doing a good job with what he had. I mean, some of these schedules were just ridiculous. Then you look at Texas' SEC schedule. If you look at theirs, and they play like one ranked team the entire time. I think it was Georgia. So like he was just not getting a break. So we'll keep an eye on Florida going into next year. But also a little preview for the Bowls. I think Florida could be a good team to bet on during the bowl season once we get into that, because now their team is fired up. They want to keep playing. They're not going to be sitting a lot of guys. They're trying to build something as a program there. They got the coach staying. So could be an interesting team to look at to maybe bet on in bowl season, the Florida Gators.
Yeah, good point. They did turn their season around. And I remember at the beginning of the season, we were talking about, toughest schedules in Florida. There was a chance they would be 8-4 and like in the playoff discussion because of how difficult their schedule was. And, a couple, things didn't go their way. They lost those early games. They looked horrible early on, specifically week 3. I think I bet on them to keep it close with A&M, and that was just catastrophe that game. But they turned themselves around. They've looked good in recent weeks, and we'll see if they're able to build on top of that going into next year. And signing days obviously this week, and getting to transfers, so we'll see how it all plays out for Florida. But yeah, good ending for them for sure. I mean, 7-5 with that schedule, and also how it started in the narrative. I mean, it looked like by week 3 Napier was going to be out of there. I mean, it really felt like he was definitely on the hot seat. And like you said, they committed to him mid-season, which was a little strange. And, things seem to have worked out, at least for now, for Florida. So it'll be a good team to watch going into next year, at least. And when we get into 2025, might be someone to watch. But, yeah, happy ending, I guess, for the Gators. So all around, great day in Florida. Florida State season over, Florida turnaround season. Good for them.
Yeah, and who would have thought Florida would have a better trajectory than Florida State after last year's results? So a lot could change in a year. You got to let it play out sometimes.
All right, conference championship week. We can run through some of these kind of quick. We got, we've got 5 of them. Start in the Mountain West, which is a playoff game, a preemptive playoff game practically between UNLV and Boise State. Obviously, we have Heisman implications on the line in this game. Boise State slight favorite, 4 points, totals 58.5. Jared, what are your thoughts here? Big game for him. This is a playoff game. Whoever wins this game is likely to be the 12. Boise could be in the bye. I mean, really, UNLV a chance to get in. Huge game. This is Friday night. Good way to kick us off here on championship weekend.
Yeah, this one is really fun. Like you said, it is a play-in game. We have some of them that are absolute play-in games, kind of a pre-playoff game, and other ones that don't really mean as much. But this one's definitely going to mean a lot for seeding, for getting in, and everything. I was a big Boise State fan all year. I liked them in the preseason, living up to the hype. I picked them against UNLV early on this year. They did play, I think it was like week 5 or 6, right in the middle. If you look back at that box score and everything, and I watched that whole game. It was on late on a Friday night too, and Boise State won and covered, but I thought UNLV kind of looked better, honestly. And Genty got a little banged up in that game, but I thought UNLV's game plan was really solid. And I honestly thought the Boise State quarterback just kind of played one of his best games of the year and really propelled them to that cover on the road at UNLV. But this game will be in Idaho now, so I'm kind of liking UNLV. It's crazy to think with Boise State doing what they've done. They've won every game except for the Oregon game. They kind of stumbled a little bit down the stretch, but could it be a little fatigue? Like they just knew they had to win the games and not crush the teams with their standing being in the top 10 now. So I think this UNLV team's kind of sneakily been playing some good ball. I like their coaching staff. They got that new quarterback that they had, the second string that's now playing, has a lot of games under his belt now. I think this defense, they've seen Genty a lot. They've seen Boise State a lot, and I thought they had a good game plan, holding into one of his lowest rushing totals of the year. Just bothers me. It's in Boise. It's going to be cold. Might be a little snow, maybe, or low precipitation in the forecast. So I lean UNLV with the points, but I would just like to see Boise get into the playoff personally, just to see them and Genty and maybe spoil an upset if they get a right matchup or something, or get a first round bye. But I'm thinking UNLV in this game, and then maybe looking at the under 58.5. It's been high scoring in the past, but I think this last game really wasn't midway through the year, and I think this one up in the cold might be a little run heavy, might be under 58.5.
Okay. Yeah, that's some good insight there. I don't have a play on this yet. I don't know. I could see UNLV winning this game outright, but I feel like this has been Boise State's season. I know they had a couple close ones. They had the Wyoming game. They had Nevada. They struggled a little bit, but that when you go through, with a comb and looking at all their games, you're going to find, some spots. It's hard to blow out teams every week. And you're right. They did squeak by UNLV earlier in the season. That was on the road. This one's in Boise. I'm not sure I have a play yet. It would be fun to see Boise in the playoff. And also the winner of the Iowa State, Arizona State, which we'll get to in a second, is definitely going to be rooting for UNLV, because that would be huge if the winner, all of a sudden, if UNLV were to win this game, then the winner of that Iowa State, Arizona State game presumably will get the bye week, that whole extra bye, because they'll be ahead of UNLV most likely in the rankings. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't see a scenario that they would not be. But yeah, big game for Boise State. It seems like the Heisman has been kind of settled here on Travis Hunter. I'm not sure when that's announced. It might be Sunday also. I'm not actually sure. Or no, it's the Army-Navy game. So it's the next week that's announced. But yeah, big game for Gentry too. We'll see what he can do. He's been exciting all year. I feel like I'd have to lean Boise just because of the season it's been, and they are home. Usually I take the underdog in this situation, but I don't know. I don't have an official play yet, but yeah, it's going to be a good one nonetheless for play-in game on Friday.
Yeah, it should be fun on the blue turf there when you turn it on. It should be, not a lot of people watch Boise State games, so it should be a fun one there Friday night.
And then, yeah, Iowa State, Arizona State, just touch on that. Arizona State laying 2. I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I kind of picked Iowa State because Colorado looked like they were going to win the whole thing, and I knew it was too good to be true, and there was going to be more chaos. Then it shifted to Arizona State. I feel like the way that the Big 12 has gone this year, Iowa State's just going to win this game. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, for sure, I don't know if I even love that pick. I don't know a ton about them. These teams have kind of been up and down all year. Arizona State, have been playing great the last few weeks. Iowa State's kind of been steadily always in the hunt there in the Big 12. This total is 49.5. Arizona State, slight favorite, but yeah, huge opportunity to get a bye in the playoff. And we could talk about the playoff, obviously, after this about, is this fair that one of these teams gets to be a top 3-4 seed? But here we are, Iowa State, Arizona State in Dallas, Mr. Paisley. I think a few weeks ago we were talking about going to this game. Might be BYU, Colorado. Well, here we are, completely different scenario. Arizona State, Iowa State with a Big 12 title on the line.
Yeah, I feel like every week this like projected matchup just kept changing with the Big 12 with all the shakeup and everything. But yeah, this is what we landed on: Arizona State, Iowa State. I actually like the over in this game. I thought this number was a little interesting. You know, you got the climate controlled in the Dallas Cowboy Stadium, sun pending. Hopefully, the sun's not getting anybody's eyes there. But 49, I just feel like it's a little short. I feel like Iowa State and Arizona State have good offenses. I think Arizona State actually matches up good offensively against Iowa State. They have a little trouble stopping the run, and as we know, that's what Arizona State loves to do with Scatabo there, big bowling ball running back there. I think he's going to have a big day. Do have a key injury at wide receiver, injured his shoulder. I don't know if it was the last game or 2 games ago. So I think it's going to be a very run-heavy approach from Arizona State, but I think they'll be able to move the ball a lot. Their quarterback's been playing really well, kind of underrated. This guy's been flying under the radar. His name's escaping me right now, but I think he transferred from like a lower school, came up, and is having a great year. He's kind of just been getting better every game. So I kind of like him in the quarterback matchup against Beck on the Iowa State side, who had a great freshman year and then kind of dialed it back a little bit this year. Didn't really have that great of a year. I think Iowa State has better weapons. They have good receivers, good running backs. So I just think this number is just a little low. At 49.5, I think you could see like a 28-27 type game, a little bit higher scoring in the 50s. And then as for the side, I would lean Arizona State. I took a little bit of a money line on them, not staying away from the 2, just grabbing a more expensive money line, but probably lean Arizona State unit play, but then maybe a unit or 2 on the over here in Jerry World.
Arizona State, I think preseason was the pick to finish last in the Big 12, according to
it was like 150 to 1 ticket to win the Big 12. I think before the year you could have got.
No, that's unbelievable. I mean, it's nothing to say Big 12 with the biggest underdog of the entire conference to win it in the first year here of the expanded playoff. So, yeah, this will be a good one. Not sure either of these teams really deserve a shot to win it all, but it's college football where it's a new era, 12-team playoff, and it's going to be fun. And honestly, back to the point A of this entire season for whatever people want to complain about the playoff, this game would be meaningless in every other season. All of a sudden, this is a huge game for both teams, for recruiting, for their school, fun, everything. I mean, even more so just football. Football funds the rest of 99% of colleges' athletics departments. I mean, most of them are taking loss. So it's a huge game and playoff implications. I mean, Iowa State, Arizona State. Who would have thought? I don't know what time this is on Saturday. I'd like to see it, but I think it's probably at noon. I think
it's noon. Yeah, usually noon on Saturday.
Okay, yeah, so that'll be going to why Arizona State -2. I probably also lean Arizona State -2. The only reason I said that about Iowa State is just because it feels like that type of year where we're just whoever we think it's just going to be the opposite. But I don't think Iowa State was in any of these playoff projections, and of course they'll probably end up with the bye. So
right.
We'll see, but it should be a great game.
Yeah, I mean, then we do complain about Iowa State or Arizona State. Let's say they get the 4 seed and get a bye, but it does make this weekend very interesting because now conference championships do mean a lot. So it's a tough battle where it's going to be fun this weekend, but then you're going to look at it going into the 20th or whenever the playoffs start and be like, really, Arizona State doesn't have to play this week or Iowa State because they have a bye? Like it'll be crazy, but it'll make these games really important and really fun.
Yeah, and right into that, this next one, ACC Championship in Charlotte on Saturday night, 17th ranked Clemson playing 8th ranked SMU. Similar, Big 12 winner of this will get that bye. And there's a chance the loser's out. I know there's a lot of speculation if SMU loses, they should be safely in. That's a whole nother debate between the committee who put in SMU or Alabama. I tend to think also SMU, has earned that spot. You should not punish them for having to play this other game. Just so happens that they've made their conference championship. So that's a whole nother point. We could talk about that for a couple minutes after this when we talk about the playoff rankings. But huge game. Clemson coming off that devastating loss to South Carolina. Looked like they had a shot to win that one. But SMU, great season. Only that one early loss to BYU. They're slight favorites. What are your thoughts here on this one, Jared? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I actually like Clemson quite a bit in this game. It's a little interesting. I'd like to see SMU win. I like the season they had. Good roster, but I just think they're going to get a little outmatched here by Clemson. And if you look at schedules, we talked about this the last couple weeks of the regular season, now coming into conference championship weekend here, but SMU's schedule down the stretch has really not been great. I mean, they played a lot of bottom feeders. Will look good in those games, which is good. That's what you want to see. But I'm going to point back to the Duke SMU game case. I think this was a game we were texting back and forth when it was going on.
Yeah.
With I think it went into overtime or an overtime or two.
Yeah, it was about to, I think.
SMU had 6 turnovers in that game and could have had a couple more. They had a couple fumbles that they recovered themselves. So, and that was a defensive line in Duke that with Manny Diaz that caused a lot of havoc, really gets in the backfield a lot. So I'm just a little afraid of SMU's O-line going up against a Clemson defensive line that I think is better than Duke's defensive line. So I think they're going to cause a lot of problems. I just don't think they've seen athletes like this on the defensive line in weeks, not maybe even all year, if you look at SMU's schedule in totality. So I think it's just a little bit of a schedule discrepancy. Clemson coming off that South Carolina game, who we both have a lot of respect for and really like South Carolina, even though they lost that one by 3 at home. But I think that was a good test. And now going from South Carolina to SMU, I feel like is a big drop off. So a little confused in the number here. I thought Clemson would be a slight favorite. So I'll gladly take the +2.5 here, plus the points. Maybe a little sprinkle on the money line. And then I also like the over in this game, too, because I think Clemson could really dominate on the offensive side. Their offense has been very hit or miss all year, but when it does get clicking or they get a defense that isn't as good, they haven't played like an elite defense like a South Carolina or a Georgia early in the year, they kind of found some success. So I could see Clemson really winning the outside matchups here. They got really good receivers I think we'll see in this game. If Clemson cannot just turn the ball over, just keep it clean, get to these receivers on the outside. I like Maffa at running back. He's a big bowling ball as well. I don't think we've seen a guy like him. So I think Clemson will put up a ton of points. And then I think SMU could score enough to get this game over the total. But if I'm getting a couple points of Clemson, I think they win this one outright and score a bunch of points.
Wow. Yeah, so that would give Clemson the bye. I think I agree with you, honestly. My initial thought when I saw this game, I liked Clemson. I thought it would be like a pick 'em or maybe a Clemson slight favorite. So that is interesting where that line is with SMU laying a 2.5. It makes me, kind of think. I mean, these are two teams that have shown flaws all year, and to your point with the SMU schedule, certainly it has helped. I mean, I don't think anybody would pick them probably against South Carolina right now, and Clemson just had to battle them and nearly won that game. That total's sitting at 55.5. Probably lean Clemson also in this one. I don't have a official play at this point. Maybe Saturday I will, but should be a good one. Ace, buy on the line here, and there's a good shot the loser is completely out of it. So another, potential play-in game, just like the Mountain West and Big 12. So a lot of excitement coming up.
Yeah, and just one more point. I think this is also another factor where Clemson's been here a lot, and I think Dabo's like 5-1 in AC championships.
Yeah.
Or they usually are playing it every year. Usually now SMU, they have a little bit of pressure. Clemson kind of has a little house money. They shouldn't even be in this spot because Miami shouldn't have lost and all the things that broke for them. So I feel like Clemson's going to come in loose. They've been here before. They've been in big games. SMU really hasn't played like a big time game in a while. So yeah. I think they could be a little tight knowing that, if we get bounced, is Alabama going to jump us? They're going to leave us out. So just another factor why I think Clemson looks more comfortable in this one and wins it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Clemson's been there before. SMU really has never. I mean, this is their first year in the ACC. I mean, obviously the story of their program from the 80s and their scandal and get not playing in a major conference really until now. They've never been in the national spotlight really until really this season. I mean, it's true, even though the ACC is not as dominant as it was. They're still in position. So huge game for them both. But yeah, Clemson's been there before. Dabo has been in this position before. So yeah, I'd probably give the nod to Clemson there in that one. Big Ten implications. Nittany Lions somehow, my Penn State Nittany Lions found their way to Indianapolis. Not sure how. Still don't quite understand it. But here we are playing Oregon, number 1, the last unbeaten team in the country in Indianapolis, all thanks to Ohio State failing once again to beat Michigan. Spread's tight here, 3.5. Totals 49.5. I don't know. I saw a lot of different statistics in this game. Very honestly similar schedules, similar statistics on scores of common opponents, yardage per game, turnovers. There's a lot of interesting things to go in this game. Originally, I'm not going to lie, I actually really liked Oregon at first. I thought Oregon would, I thought they were going to be a little bit bigger favorite in this game. I don't know, though. The more I dug into it, I'm not sure I could see this one being a blowout. It's why I do have a play on this one. I think I like the under. I think we're going to see a little bit more defense. I think Oregon might be able to score a little bit, but I don't know. I'm not as terrified as I am of Oregon as I think I would be playing other teams at this point. We'll see what happens. Totals at 49.5. Kind of a weird game. We'll see if Penn State, is able to get that run game and or LR, going as well. But yeah, close spread, Mr. Paisley. Only 3.5 Oregon's laying.
Yeah, I don't mind that underplay case. I think that's a good call in the game. I think this could be a little more low scoring, but I hate to do it to you after you just heap so much praise on my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I'm going to go the opposite direction. I think this number is way short. I think this should have been 5 or 6, closer to a touchdown. So I will gladly take the 3.5. I think it might be coming down to 3. So if you like Oregon, maybe wait a couple more days here, maybe right before kickoff. But I just think this number is short. I think this is a bad matchup for Penn State. I mean, they haven't looked great in these big-time games going up against, some elite opponents, and looking back to the Ohio State game at home. I just fear for Penn State's offense. I just don't think they're going to be able to move the ball. I still have a lot of questions on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
I like what they were doing in some of these, against Maryland. They looked really good, especially with 7 seconds left. But I don't trust this offense to consistently move it. I think their defense is solid. I don't think it's an elite defense. I don't think it's bad. But I just think this offense is sputtering. I like the OC. Are they a run team? Are they a pass team? They don't really have weapons on the outside. Alar still a little gun shy. He's definitely taking more risks, but I think once the pressure ramps up, he's kind of just checking it down or just taking a sack, kind of letting his defense win the game. But I don't know if the defense could solely win the game here for Penn State. So I think Penn State has an avenue to run the ball. Will they commit to it? We talked about this in some of the other games. Will they stick to that run game? Singleton, I think it is, got a little healthier, looked really good in this last game. So that's their path for Penn State, I think, to slow this game down, run the ball, limit possessions, keep Oregon off the field, and maybe they keep this close. But I just don't like the 3.5. I still feel like that's way shorter. It was like 6 or 7, might be a different opinion, but I just think Penn State's going to struggle a lot offensively in this game. Oregon has a really good secondary. Penn State does not have good receivers that can separate, so I think the passing game's out of question. So I think if Oregon gets a little lead, I don't know how Penn State gets back in this game if they can't throw the ball. When you look on the opposite side, I think Oregon, this is going to be the best offense Penn State has faced all year. You look at that Minnesota game, that really gave them a little bit of fits. I just think this defense is good. I think they're a solid defense, but can they compete and slow down a top-tier, number 1 team in the country? I don't think so. Dylan Gabriel, 2nd or 3rd in the Heisman rank. I think he's having a good year quietly. I think they can run the ball. Jordan James, really good. They got some nice playmakers on the outside. And Tez Johnson, who's a transfer from Texas A&M. So I just think you look at the way, if you look back to that Oregon-Ohio State game, the way Oregon moved the ball, chunk plays, taking shots down the field, running or passing. I do think Ohio State's defense is better than Penn State's defense, so I think Oregon will have a lot of success for most of the game on offense. But yeah, I don't mind the under because I just don't see Penn State scoring a lot. So I feel like to get this over, you're going to need Oregon to score 30, 35 plus. So I'm seeing more of a, like 28-10, 28-7 game. I think Oregon wins this one based on the matchup. I just don't think Penn State is that elite and can compete here, but we will see. But I just think this is I kind of like Oregon actually overall too. I think Oregon and Texas are definitely number 1, number 2. Definitely could see them in the championship. So I just don't see Penn State hanging around with this team on the fast track in Indy.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, there's no doubt I could see if I had to choose who has the better chance at Penn State winning it close game or Oregon being able to pull away by a couple possessions, I would definitely lean Oregon being able to pull away. The one thing, though, I just keep coming back to is I'm not sure Oregon is – I think they're very good. I'm just not sure that they're the elite number 1 team that everybody always remembers. I mean, I know Penn State has struggled and their offense has been sputtering, but this is also an Oregon team that struggled against Wisconsin. They barely squeaked out a win there. I mean, they put up 16 points. I mean, that was not a great showing. They've showed sputtering against Michigan. I mean, Michigan was even able to move the ball a little bit against them. They handled Washington this past week, but first quarter, I mean, I don't know. In other words, I think if Oregon plays a great game, they have the potential to stomp anybody. I think if they get it together and they play a full offensive, defensive game, I think Oregon, yes, I think this could potentially, get out of hand for Penn State. I don't think they have the talent that Oregon does, but I don't know. I come back to everybody's kind of seemed beatable this year. And I think if Penn State, you're right, I think they do need to be able to run the ball. They don't have any receivers. I mean, we know that. They have Tyler Warren. They have to find a way to get him the ball. And if Oregon's doubling him, then maybe that opens up some other opportunities in the pass game, maybe use him as a decoy a little bit. So I think there are opportunities to get the offense going if they're outsmart them. But no, on a 1v1 talent basis, Oregon's definitely the more talented team. Certainly not debating that. I just think that maybe we're giving them a little bit too much credit just because of their unbeaten record. And yes, they have that win over Ohio State, but they've also struggled, I think, in their fair amount this season against lesser opponents, like Penn State has as well. I think they definitely have as well. But that's why I'd be shocked if they are able to pull away. I think it's going to be a tighter game. We'll see. As your point, I think Oregon definitely has the talent. They definitely are a national contender. Would not be surprised if they go on and win it all. But yeah, we'll see. I don't really have a play right now other than the under. I do like the under. I could see this game going either way, but yeah, we'll see. Big game nonetheless, and honestly for Penn State too, just even being in the situation is still surprising. Just have a number one seed or number two even with a win. Did not have that in my cards here a week ago.
Yeah, and that's why I think this is like people are, oh, it doesn't mean as much now. No, it means for seeding and for a bye. I mean, you would ask Penn State or Oregon if you guys would like a bye. Like any team right at this time of year would love another bye right now to get some more rest. So I still think these matchups still have some intrigue and still have some motivation. But I'm just kind of putting Oregon at one just by a de facto. I don't think they're like that elite, but I just think they have less holes and like less areas to kind of poke at than some of these other teams. So it's kind of by a default. But yeah, it should be an interesting matchup. But I think Oregon might show here why maybe they'll separate a little bit. But that's why we play the games, and we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Also, total 49.5 SEC championship, the same total as the Big Ten, similar to the Penn State Oregon at 49.5. We got Georgia, Texas 49.5 SEC championship on the line. Texas slight favorite. Georgia won the regular season matchup. This one in Atlanta. I think I lean Georgia again. Honestly, my just gut thought is on this one. But once again, both teams have shown flawed. Texas has played great defense in recent weeks. So we'll see. And honestly, a big chance for Georgia, too, to come back after some of their losses early on and get a bye and reclaim the SEC. And could they get redemption on Texas, too, would be a big game.
Yeah, I'm just going under in this game. I really like this under 49 with Texas defense playing good. I think Georgia's defense will show up. I don't know if their offense will, but I think the defense will be ready to go and have a similar game plan to how they stopped Texas. And Georgia's offense didn't look great even in that game midway through the year when they beat Texas. So just something to keep in mind too. But I'm just staying away from the spread case because I just don't know what Georgia you're getting. If you're getting the Georgia that played against Texas at Texas and beat them by double digits, this 3 is a ridiculous number. Then, yeah, Georgia should be favored. I think the +3 is a great play. Or are you getting the Georgia that showed up against Georgia Tech? Or are you getting the Georgia, that showed up in other spots? But so that's where I don't really mind the Georgia play here because you're betting that high end. If you get the good Georgia team, +3 is a gift, and that's a great pick. But I'm just kind of staying away. I would honestly maybe lean Texas getting the revenge, but don't love it at all. I don't think they should be laying 2 or 3 points here, but I'm just going to be playing the under in this one.
Yeah. Probably like the under as well. I don't see either one of these teams being able to pull away and score a lot of points. And Texas's offense, has sputtered honestly in recent weeks against A&M last week. And, we saw Georgia not being able to do anything against Georgia Tech in the first half last week. First time they were shut out in the first half in like 5 or 6 years. So either way, big game, chance for redemption. That one I think also Saturday night. But yeah, Texas laying 2.5 and a bye on the line. And we'll just get quickly, I know we're already over the hour, into some of these rankings, but honestly might just start right there. What will some of these losses cause in the way the field will shape up? I think we kind of know our teams at this point. Not too many, opportunities left for Miami. I think they're pretty much safely out. I guess the biggest question, probably going into this final week, is what would happen if SMU loses and Clemson wins. I think everything else that happens, even if Penn State were to lose, or Oregon or Georgia or Texas, I think all that, they kind of reshuffle probably inside that top 7, top 6, somewhere in there. I think the only question that could really shake things up with, Alabama or, Miami or whatever, is what happens if, or not even Miami. Miami's dead. If Alabama, will they be in and out? If SMU loses? That's the question. If SMU loses, where will they go? Clemson gets the bye. Is SMU out, or do they put Alabama in over them, assuming all the other rankings stay the same?
Yeah, I mean, if they said they're not punishing SMU, then you would feel like they're safe. I guess some of this also depends how they lose. Like if they lose by 3, do they lose by 30? Do they lose by 40? And could maybe sway the voting a little bit. But yeah, I just have a tough time seeing them leaving out Alabama with what all the ratings and stuff. People do mention that it is a TV show at the end of the day. So sometimes they do with the deserving teams. Sometimes they do what's the best matchups and stuff. I mean, they clearly did that last year. Florida State was more deserving, quote unquote. But Alabama did produce a great Rose Bowl against Michigan. That was a great game. So these guys doing the rankings are TV guys, keeping that in mind, looking for the ratings. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's not a ton of shakeup that could happen, but just with the placement of some of these teams, like you said, with Clemson, with Arizona State, with UNLV, I think UNLV could have a nice shakeup if they win that. I think Boise would drop out probably, but they would kind of be close. But yeah, I think this year, especially with the 4-team playoff, I feel like you had like 1 or 2 teams, like 4, 5, 6 maybe. Or now you're going to have like maybe 10 to 15, 16. South Carolina's name might be getting thrown in the ring. But I think these projections this past week kind of showed and kind of foreshadowed like, okay, this is where we're seeing it. So it might not be a ton of surprise with these last rankings.
Right. Yeah, I don't expect there to be too much movement. I think, yeah, it's just what do they do with SMU with a loss? What do they do? Yeah, with Boise with a loss. I mean, I didn't even have the thought that they would be in. I would think they'd be out, considerably if they lose to UNLV. I think they're sitting at 10. But it's a good question. I mean, that could happen, and obviously what they do with Georgia, assuming they lose to Texas, do they flip flop? Let's say with like Ohio State, does Ohio State, all of a sudden get to play Indiana again? And, does Tennessee have to play Georgia? Just some simple things like that. Even Penn State, a lot of people think maybe Notre Dame will hop them up to 5 or 6, and, Penn State might go to the 6 or 7 seed. None of that's major. It's more major for matchups next week. My thought is they probably shouldn't even have released one this Tuesday. They should have just went the week. They should have just went from last week to, go into the conference. Cause then it would be like, number one, it'd be less debate on if something does happen. Like, let's say SMU's out, like there wouldn't be a lot to criticize because you wouldn't really know what they had them at originally.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like well, 2 things. One, I think maybe it's time to get rid of the conference championship games just based off of seeing this SMU and Boise up there. And then 2, maybe skip this final week and don't do a ranking until do like a 10-day, pause and then do the final rankings. I don't know. None of that's really major, but just some kind of thoughts on bigger picture.
Yeah, no, because like you said, Miami's kind of dead because they're behind Alabama and they both don't play this week. So it just makes sense that they wouldn't be in. So they just already know they're gone. And I agree with you. That's a good point. That could be changing down the line here with these conference championships, depending how they do these rankings. Like if some of these teams lose and they don't move them at all, then you're right. You don't even need these conference championships. Just kind of end the season where it's at. But then I don't think they should move. I would love to see Notre Dame get the 5 seed, but like we talked about before the show, like I don't think Penn State should move behind Notre Dame if they lose to the number 1 team in a conference championship game, just because Notre Dame doesn't have to play in a conference. So it's just a lot of I agree. I think this conference championship week, there's the hot buzz, the hot storyline, like should you even want to play in the conference championship if it really hurts you and stuff like that. I think that's kind of it's kind of not true because now you could get a first round bye. I mean, if you told Penn State like, hey, you're not going to move back, but if you win this game, you could get a bye and a better seed, I think you guys would take that 10 out of 10 times. So, but then if they get punished a lot, then then I don't think they want to play in the Big Ten championship. So that's going to be very interesting to see because they said we're not going to punish them, but then are you really just going to then keep the rankings the same kind of? Like it's going to be really intriguing to see this Sunday morning when they come out.
Yeah, no, we'll see. There's definitely going to be a lot of questions answered on what they do. I mean, from this past week, they did say they will take into account everything that happens this week for teams that played and moving up or down. So I don't know if that means punishing or not, but yeah, regardless, it's still another game on the schedule. But yeah, you're right. If there would definitely be more to play for if you knew you had the chance to win your conference, get a bye, but you didn't have to get penalized. We'll see if that happens and how that really all plays out. But yeah, some things to think about going into next year and years forward. And I think there will be some adjustments, honestly, just based off of how the media has been. I don't think it'll be like this for very long. I think we'll have some variation of the 12 teams. I do though think maybe they'll move the conference buys and maybe things around. We'll see. I mean, it is odd seeing Boise State with a bye up there at the 4th seed, and it does talk about, man, as a Penn State fan, that would be an ideal 5 seed playing Arizona State and then Boise State going into the semi. I mean, that would just be a dream scenario, really, for any team. So certainly some better spots than others, and I think that's probably the biggest thing to learn about moving forward. But Sunday we'll know, and we'll see how it all obviously plays out afterwards.
Yeah, that 5 seed is very, very important, maybe better than a 1 seed. So just keep that in mind.
All right, might as well get right into the bets. We're already about at hour 10. Mr. Paisley, I think you have a few more than me as of right now, so I'll let you kick it off. What are your preliminary conference championship plays of the week?
Yeah, try and touch on 2 games that we haven't broke down from the group of 5 that does not affect the playoff. But we're going to go with the MAC championship in Detroit in the Lions Stadium. Give me Miami of Ohio -2. They're playing against Ohio. I think Miami of Ohio is playing some good ball right now. Really defensively shutting teams down. Their quarterback is a 6-year guy, I think, healthy this year. He was injured last year, and they still won the MAC. Miami, so they're going for back-to-back championships there. Ohio, I think, is a little overachieving. They were not looking that great at the beginning of the year. Their expectations were down, kind of overachieved a little bit. And these two teams did play early in the year, and it was a 30-20 final score. But Miami of Ohio was up, and Ohio scored 2 late touchdowns to make it look a little bit better than it is. So if you're looking at like priors and this was a closer game. But I think Miami of Ohio gets it done here, completes the back-to-back championships with a short spread of 2.
Love to see it. Miami, Ohio -2. Is that a Friday game also?
That's a good question. I think it might be Friday. Let me check that quick while you give your pick.
Some of those thoughts, yeah, are Friday. Yeah, my first pick, I only have 2 right now on this Thursday, get it out, but going Georgia with the points against Texas. I think I got it at 3, maybe 2.5 now. I just think they have a good chance outright. So give me the points. I've seen enough of Texas struggling, and I know Georgia has too, but I'm kind of just going with my gut here. I think you play this game 20 times. I think maybe Georgia wins 10.5, 11 of them. So I lean Georgia for that reason. I think both teams are good. Both teams are national champion contenders. But yeah, anytime I see Georgia with points, I'm pretty happy. So Georgia +3.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pass up. That MAC championship is noon on Saturday, so it is Big 12 game.
Big 12.
Get the split screen going, but yeah, don't mind that Georgia pick. If they're at their peak, they could be good, but you just don't want to see it again. But I like that +3. I'm going to go Oregon as my official play. We touch on this a lot against Penn State, upsetting the Penn State fans in PA here, but going against Oregon, I think they show their true colors here, have a nice showing. I think Dan Lanning is a really good, underrated coach, good defensive mind. I think he's got some cooked up. So good motivator. So I think Oregon wants to stamp their approval here in the Big Ten, first year in the conference. I think they do it in a nice fashion, covering the 3.5.
Haters will hate, Mr. Paisley. That's all I have to say. I'm going to go the under in that game, 49.5. I gave the reason before. I just think this thing's going to be a little tighter. Penn State sometimes is showed to play some good defense against better offensive opponents, keep things a slower, lower scoring game. To your point, I don't think Penn State's going to be able to score a ton. So for those reasons, I like the under 49.5 in this one.
Yeah, I like that one, Case, with you on that. I'm going to go Clemson as another official play. Also broke that one down. I just think they have a lot of advantages, a lot better athletes. I think SMU will tighten up a little bit in the spot. Clemson's been here before, got gifted. with that nice win from Syracuse. Thank you, Syracuse. But I think Clemson wins this one big here. Give me Clemson. And then just last one to round us out here. I'm going to go Louisiana -5. The Raging Cajuns. This is
Love the Raging Cajuns.
Raging Cajuns is at home. This is an on-site game against Marshall, the Herd. Again, this is kind of a similar synopsis to where Marshall really overachieved too. They were actually one of the best against the spread teams this year, but their record hasn't been that great. Kind of sneaked into the to the championship here. I think they got really fortunate in some of the games in the Sun Belt there, if you were following. And I think Louisiana's been a great team all year. The offense is really, really good. If you tune on this game, I think this might be a Friday game. I'll check that as well. But they have a great offense, a lot of good running backs. I think they'll be able to run the ball here effectively in Louisiana at the home turf. So the number it was 4 when I got it, up to 5.5 now. So it is inching out there. But I think Louisiana gets a nice statement win as a good Power 5 or a G5 school, not in the ranks of the UNLV or Boise, but definitely a very solid group of 5 team that maybe look to back also in a bowl game in December.
That's a good point. I always love this time of year. Whenever I hear about the Raging Cajuns, I'm always a big fan of them come bowl season. So we'll look at that one. Louisiana -5.5.
It's prime time, 7:30 on Saturday, going up against the Big Ten and ACC games. So if you have a third screen, I would put Louisiana on, watch them run up the score here, cover the 5.5.
Yeah, I will likely be missing most of that one unless Oregon's up 56-0 at halftime. Maybe I'll leave and go to the bar or something. But all right, well, that's pretty much a wrap. But wait, one more thing. Paisley Burger Parlay of the Week. We missed a lot of them this year, but we hit one. It was plus odds. Now's our chance, conference championship week, to come back, hit it. 2 underdogs. Mr. Paisley, who is your underdog to win outright conference championship week?
My official underdog, I don't think they should be the underdog in this game. I'm going to go Clemson as the official pick. I think they should be favorites. So I'll take the plus money all day. Give me Clemson plus 114.
It's a good pick, and I'm going to go Georgia at plus 124. They beat Texas once, so why not? Why not again? Georgia, give me Georgia.
I like it. Let's hit it. Plus 379 on the total. I've got a good feeling about this one. We were so close, Case. It'll be a nice gift to end the year with a nice parlay here.
We have gone 1-1 most of the recent weeks, if you're listening. All right, well, that's pretty much a wrap for this episode. I know it was a little bit longer than some of them before, but just want to give a big thank you to anyone out there that's been listening throughout the season. I know we've had a couple of Boise State fans in our DMs, so congratulations to you guys on a great season. Hopefully they win for you this week. We'll see. Also to anybody from Uncle Lou's channel, LouTube there. Also big game for Georgia. Wish them all the luck. I just picked them. How convenient is that to win? So appreciate everybody there and that's came over. And yeah, it was a successful season. We'll be back though next week. We'll break down some of these results and then go into some of the playoff games, maybe some of the bowl games. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe we'll do 1 or 2 more of these episodes through the rest of the year and bowl season. But yeah, keep retweeting our stuff, share our stuff, like it on Twitter, and yeah, we'll see what happens, and we will see you all next week.